and welcome to my channel. My name is Emma and this channel is all about sewing, mainly hand sewing, but today is a little bit different because today we are going to get my antique sewing machine working. So 2 videos ago I posted that I recently acquired a Singer hand crank sewing machine, and you were all really excited to see that and left me so many great suggestions for resources and ideas for what to do with the vintage linens as well. So thank you so much for all of your comments on that video. They were really useful to me. So really hope that you're going to like coming on this journey with me as I get it working today. Fingers crossed. So first of all, I watched a few videos to help me understand how to thread the machine, and I'll leave a link in the description box below to those resources so that you can go and check them out as well. So as I mentioned in the previous video, I used a website to help me date my Singer. There is a website, there are a few actually, where you can look up the serial number of the Singer, and I did that and I found out that it was born on the 8th of January 1930, so that makes it 95 years old. And it also told me that the model is the 28K, which was really useful information because I was also able to track down the original instruction manual as a PDF online, so I'll leave a link to where I found that, and also the serial number website as well. So if you have an old machine, you can go and find out about it and find the instruction manual as well. So I decided to print off the instruction manual, which I think is going to be really useful. It's very detailed. There are big diagrams, so hopefully I will be able to get the machine threaded. But before I do all of that, I need to give it a good clean. So here it is in its case, and when you lift it off, you can see the machine underneath. It's a bit dusty, it's not too grimy, but I'm going to give it a really good clean now. Now, because the machine wasn't too dusty, all I needed to do was use this microfiber cloth, and it just made it really easy to get into all the different crevices and pick up the dirt. And like I said, it wasn't too dirty at all. It really cleaned up nicely, and there you can see the serial number. So if you've got an old machine, that's where you can find it. And if you look at the plate at the side, you can date your machine by looking at the different designs too. This one has grapes on it, a grapevine, and you can find information about that online as well. I also had a little look in the compartment at the side. It's a bit of a mess in there, so I just picked out a few things that I thought were worth keeping, and I will probably throw the other things away. It was just a whole host of tiny needles really that didn't look in great condition. I'm happy now that the machine is clean. I don't think there's anything else on there that could mark my fabric. The part that's in the worst condition is the lid to that drawer at the side. It's quite rusted and little flecks of the paint have come off onto my table. But I think so long as I don't put fabric anywhere near there, which it shouldn't be, it should be absolutely fine. There's still lots of pins and things. It's a real mess inside that drawer, but I will tidy that up and get rid of those. But what I'm really keen to do now is get it threaded. So I'd just like to take a minute to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Skillshare. Now, if you are interested in deep diving into more historical sewing and learning some more hand sewing techniques and things, then Skillshare is a really great place to go. As Bernadette Banner, that you might know from YouTube, has 2 Skillshare classes on there about historical sewing techniques. I've just recently been watching Hand Sewing 2 common stitches and where to use them, and it's fantastic to get that refresher about stitches and to also think about applying them to different contexts. I'm usually all about the patchwork, but it's nice to learn a bit about dressmaking, as you never know, that might be something I deep dive into. I really love how the classes are structured. They are really well filmed. It's very clear and easy to understand, and you can learn things really quickly through watching them. Skillshare is the largest online learning platform with such a huge array of classes on a wide variety of subjects, from knitting to crochet to embroidery, watercolour painting, photography, and so much more. If you'd like to find out more, there is a link in the description box below, and the first 500 people to use my link will get 1 month of Skillshare for free. So it's definitely worth checking out because you could learn something new today. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Now there are some empty bobbins. I'm going to call them bobbins. So I'm going to use one of those, and I'm going to use the shuttle that is not rusty. It's really in nice condition. I'm going to use this spool of 50 weight thread. It's a nice medium weight and great for all-purpose sewing, so I'm hoping it's going to work well. First thing I'm going to do is remove the bottom of it and put it on the other end. Whoops. Because then I want the thread to come off my spool that way round. So then it will fit on the machine like so. It sits up a bit proud. It's a bit of a big spool, so I think it's going to rattle about a little bit. It might be better with something a little bit. Oh, that's a bit better. That should be okay. Wind the thread around this, not this pin, because when I move the handle, that's going to go up and down. We don't want that. So around there, get the spool and wind the edge, wind the end around it a couple of times. Okay. So it really did take a bit of playing around to get this right, to try and thread it up and get it wound around the bobbin in the correct direction and to get it into that little slot. It did take me a while to play around with it. I realised that I needed the arm that helps to fill the bobbin to be on the left, so I managed to get it in that position. Right, then we push it up to engage here, so that will make it wind. Let's see if it works. Something's definitely not right there. It's not doing anything. So I forgot to put it into this tension point as well. So now I've got some tension on the thread. Let's see if it works. So it's unwinding. So I need to put it in the other way around. Nothing seems to be happening. Still not right. So I just had a look at the instructions for winding the bobbin, and it says you need to put the thread into this eyelet here as if you were sewing. So I think that might be where I'm going wrong. So my instructions say to have the thread coming off the spool into the eyelet here, then along and into this bottom guide and then the top guide, and then to trap the end here where your bobbin will be. I did it! That worked a treat, and I did have it in the other way around, and I was having to turn the wheel backwards, which can't be good for it. So I have swapped the bobbin around, and this is how it works. So now I'm ready to thread the machine, and you can see the instructions are really, really clear. It's very similar to how you'd thread a modern machine, it really isn't any different. We're just going through the tension guides. Actually tells you to put the thread at the top through this one, it doesn't go around that pin, and yeah, into the tension disc, which does feel quite tight actually, so I need to figure out how to loosen that up. I've gone through the guide, I've gone around the tension disc. You need to go into this spring, then you need to thread it through this one, like so. Then you need to thread it through there. Now, mine just won't go in like that, so I'm just going to cut it to make it a bit easier. I'm going to have to thread it down through there. Should be able to thread the needle. If I could see the eye of the needle. There we go. So that is the machine threaded. Now for trying to work out how to do this bit. So the instruction book is so clear for how to put the bobbin in the shuttle. So you just put the bobbin in, it wants the thread to be at the top. So I'm just going to wind this bit up to the top and then put it in, and you want to pass the thread through this guide here, like so, and then right down to the bottom, and then you want to come back up and it to be under this guide here. And I can see that my tension possibly a little bit loose. You want to be able to hold, yeah, that's fine. We'll see. Maybe it's a bit loose. Yeah, try again. So I've got it threaded, and I think it just came out before. But yeah, don't know whether it seems a bit loose, but anyway, we'll try it in the machine and see. Now in there, so what I need to do now is draw up the thread. I'm going to hold my top thread. That's how I'd normally draw up the thread. And let's see, something's got wrapped around, but yes, it's done it. It's done it. So I've got both threads. This looks promising. Pull them to one side, and then I need to put the cover back on. And it's a bit difficult to get the cover on. That's it, we're ready to sew. So, moment of truth then, we're ready. I've got some scraps of fabric, and yeah, I'm just going to sew them together, and let's see how it works and if it works well. Oh, so straight away it did do a line of stitching, but as soon as I've pulled it out, the top thread has just completely come loose. So we've got a tension issue. So I was almost excited then, but yeah, there's a tension issue there. I don't know if it's the bobbin or if it's the top thread, or both. So some investigating is needed. So to tighten the bobbin thread, you just tighten the little screw in the bottom. So I'll try that first. I've only done it a little bit, and let's see if that's made any difference. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. I keep going to press the foot pedal. Obviously there isn't a foot pedal, but okay, let's have a look. This looks a bit better actually. So let's see again if I pull it out. No, same thing has happened, completely unravelled. So it's not a bobbin issue. Maybe I just need to tighten the tension. Maybe it's not through the tension discs properly, or it's not in there either. So I've got, let's rethread. That's always the thing to do, isn't it, when a sewing machine doesn't work? It's rethread. So we want to go through there. Now that's feeling really tight. Yeah. So I think maybe the issue was that we weren't threaded properly. That's better. Right, let's see how it goes this time. Bunching up a bit. No, completely nothing there again. Definitely some tension issue. It's going to take a while to get this fixed, I think. So I did what you should always do when you're struggling. I walked away from it for a couple of hours. I came back in the evening and I figured out that it was this tension dial. It just needed to be loosened a lot. So I ended up loosening it pretty much as loose as it can be. And now the machine stitches quite nicely. It's not perfect. It's a little bit loose on the tension, but it's enough to hold the stitches, and definitely you can sew with it and make something with it. Like you can see they're a little bit loose, but the machine is 95 years old, so I think for that it's pretty good. That's the back, the bobbin thread. Again, it's not perfect tension, but good enough. So I'm going to use this bundle of Tilda fabrics and I'm going to cut some squares up, and I want to make a little mat for the sewing machine so that it can rest on the mat and I can pull it back and forth and it's not going to scratch my table. So I sewed some squares together. Now I just guessed the seam allowance on this and just did it by eye. I think if I was doing anything bigger than this, I would put some tape on the machine or a magnetic seam guide, because my seams were definitely not accurate. They weren't 1/4 inch. I just tried to make them all the same and not worry about it too much. It turned out okay, but I think this is an area I can improve on next time. So I gave them a good press once I'd sewn them into rows. This always helps your patchwork line up better. And then once they'd all been sewn together, I fused it to double-sided fusible foam, and I put a backing fabric on it as well. And the idea was I'm going to wrap the backing fabric round to the front to encase it. And I thought I will just leave it there and just hand sew the binding around the edge. But then I thought, well, let's just see if it will sew through 2 layers of fabric and foam in the middle and do a bit of quilting, because I tried to alter the stitch length when I was doing the patchwork and I couldn't get it to be really small stitches, so the stitch length, it looks ideal for quilting, to be honest. So actually I was so surprised by how smoothly it went through all of this fabric. There was not an issue at all. It sewed it like it was butter. And I just did a few diagonal lines. I didn't do them through every single square because it doesn't really need it. It's just a mat. And I was also conscious of time and that I was definitely going to run out of the bobbin thread. So I was really pleased with how this worked out, and I will definitely be doing this again because the machine just sews really nicely. The difficult part really is that you've only got one hand, so you've got to sort of wrangle the rest of the project through the gap with one hand, and so you can't keep a hand on where the needle is at times. You do feel a bit like you're patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time. It's a new set of coordination skills, different completely to using a modern sewing machine. But I think with some practice it will get easier. You can see the stitches are pretty good. They're not completely straight because I was using one hand and I didn't mark the fabric. I was just doing it by eye, but even not too bad on the back. The tension could definitely be better, but it's good enough. You know, I accept for a machine of that age, it's good enough. So I decided to do a few more lines, not too much, and I was really happy with the result. to finish the thread, because you can't backstitch and do a reverse to secure your thread, you have to pull one of the threads to one of the sides. So I pulled them to the back, and because it's just a mat, I didn't bother burying my tails, but you definitely could. I just tied them in a knot and then I just cut them quite short, and that's absolutely fine for this project. And then it was time to stitch the binding down. I thought about doing it on the machine, and then I thought I'm just going to end up with results that I'm not happy with, because I think trying to keep it straight, I find it difficult enough. Sewing a binding by machine, I much prefer doing it by hand. So I thought, let's just do it as I normally would. So I clipped everything in place with the wonder clips and then sewed it by hand. And here is the finished mat. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Yes, the line of stitching is a bit wonky, but that is just part of the charm of this machine. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again really soon with something else. Take care. Bye bye.